Most people hit $1 million at this age, if ever. You scroll through social media seeing 25-year-old entrepreneurs flashing million-dollar lifestyles while you're in your 40s, wondering if you'll ever reach that financial milestone or if you're hopelessly behind everyone else. The constant stream of young millionaires makes it feel like wealth building should happen quickly, leaving many people questioning whether their steady, decades-long approach to saving and investing is actually working. Here's the reality that might surprise you. Only 9% of American adults ever become millionaires, and the average age when they reach this milestone is 61, not 25. The most common careers among millionaires aren't tech entrepreneurs or social media influencers, but teachers, engineers, and accountants who built wealth through consistent habits over decades. Understanding these real statistics helps separate genuine wealth building from social media illusions, providing context for realistic financial planning rather than unrealistic expectations that lead to discouragement or risky financial decisions. By the end of this video, you'll understand the actual timeline and demographics of American millionaires, plus why compound interest growth accelerates after age 50 in ways that most people never realize. If you want honest data about wealth building rather than social media fantasy, comment Millionaire Reality below. Let me show you the first surprising statistic about Millionaire Rarity. Number 1. The Millionaire Rarity. Despite social media making millionaire status appear commonplace, approximately 9% of American adults have achieved a net worth of $1 million or more. This means that out of every 100 people you encounter, in traffic, at the grocery store, or in your workplace, roughly 91 have not reached this financial milestone. Understanding this rarity helps set realistic expectations rather than feeling personally inadequate about your current financial position. Net worth represents the total value of everything you own minus everything you owe. This includes home equity, retirement accounts, savings, investments, vehicles, and other assets, less mortgages, credit cards, student loans, and other debts. Many people who technically qualify as millionaires reach this status primarily through home appreciation rather than accumulated savings and investments. However, the distinction between total net worth and investable assets reveals an even more exclusive group. Investable asset millionaires, those with $1 million or more in liquid assets like cash, stocks, bonds, and retirement accounts, represent only 2% of American adults. This dramatic difference highlights how home equity often comprises the majority of household wealth for many millionaires. Someone might own a $1.2 million home that's fully paid off but have minimal savings, no retirement accounts, and struggle to afford basic maintenance. While technically a millionaire by net worth, their financial flexibility remains limited because their wealth is tied up in a single illiquid asset. This scenario becomes particularly relevant in expensive housing markets where property appreciation creates paper millionaires without corresponding financial security. The Federal Reserve data shows that median household net worth peaks at approximately $410,000 for people aged 65 to 74. Which represents only 41% of the way to millionaire status. This means that most American households never approach $1 million in total wealth, even after decades of working and saving. These statistics reflect mathematical reality rather than personal failure or lack of ambition. Regional variations significantly affect these numbers. A $1 million net worth provides different lifestyle options in rural areas compared to expensive metropolitan regions. Additionally, the definition of financial success varies considerably based on individual circumstances, family obligations, and personal values that extend beyond pure wealth accumulation. Age demographics reveal that wealth building typically spans entire careers rather than happening quickly. The concentration of millionaires in older age groups reflects decades of compound growth, debt payoff, and asset accumulation that younger people haven't had time to achieve, regardless of their financial habits. However, understanding Millionaire Rarity shouldn't discourage wealth-building efforts. Instead, it provides context for realistic goal setting and timeline expectations. Someone in their 30s with $50,000 in retirement accounts is actually ahead of most Americans their age, even though they're far from millionaire status. The key insight involves focusing on progress relative to your age group and circumstances rather than absolute wealth comparisons. Building substantial wealth remains achievable for people who save consistently over time, but it typically requires decades of discipline rather than dramatic short-term results. Understanding this timeline helps maintain motivation during periods when progress feels slow, rather than abandoning wealth-building strategies due to unrealistic expectations about speed. Most importantly, these statistics demonstrate that reaching millionaire status represents genuine achievement rather than expected outcomes, making consistent saving and investing valuable regardless of whether you ultimately reach seven-figure net worth. Number 2. The age factor. The average American millionaire reaches this milestone at age 61, representing a significant increase from the late 1950s average during the 1980s. This trend reflects fundamental changes in how wealth accumulation works in modern America, where longer timelines have become necessary to build substantial net worth, even for people who save consistently throughout their careers. This age increase becomes more striking when you consider that it persists even after adjusting for inflation. $1 million today doesn't purchase the same amount as $1 million in 1980, yet it still takes longer to accumulate that inflation-adjusted wealth. This suggests that structural economic changes, not just currency devaluation, have made wealth building more challenging and time-consuming than previous generations experienced. Several factors contribute to this extended timeline. Career progression now often involves more job changes, periods of retraining, and industry disruptions that interrupt consistent wealth building. Educational costs have increased dramatically, meaning many people start their careers with substantial debt rather than beginning wealth accumulation immediately. Housing costs consume larger portions of income in many markets, reducing available funds for savings and investment. Additionally, the shift from defined benefit pension plans to 401k systems has transferred wealth-building responsibility from employers to individuals. Previous generations could rely on company pensions that provided retirement security without requiring sophisticated investment knowledge or decades of consistent contributions. Modern workers must navigate investment decisions, market volatility, and contribution timing independently. The age 61 milestone reflects the mathematical reality of compound interest combined with typical career earnings patterns. Most people don't earn substantial salaries until their late 20s or early 30s, and early career years often involve establishing emergency funds and paying down student debt before serious wealth accumulation begins. This means effective wealth building typically spans 30 to 35 years rather than entire working careers. However, this timeline shouldn't discourage younger people from starting their wealth building journey. Understanding that millionaire status typically arrives in the 60s helps set realistic expectations rather than creating unrealistic pressure to achieve this milestone in your 30s or 40s. The people who do reach millionaire status earlier often had advantages like family wealth, extremely high incomes, or exceptional market timing that aren't available to most workers. The age factor also explains why net worth growth appears slow during early career years. Someone consistently saving 10 to 15% of their income throughout their 30s and 40s is building the foundation for acceleration that typically occurs after age 50, when compound interest finally has sufficient time and base amounts to generate meaningful growth. Most importantly, this data demonstrates that wealth building represents a marathon rather than a sprint. The financial habits you develop in your 20s and 30s, consistent saving, avoiding high-interest debt, investing in diversified assets, create the conditions for wealth accumulation that becomes visible decades later. The apparent delay shouldn't be interpreted as failure, but rather as the natural timeline for compound growth to demonstrate its power. Understanding this age reality helps maintain perspective during periods when progress feels frustratingly slow, knowing that consistent behavior over decades typically produces results even when individual years show minimal advancement. Number 3. The career reality. Contrary to popular assumptions about wealth requiring exceptional careers or entrepreneurial success, the most common professions among American millionaires include teachers, engineers, and accountants, occupations known more for stability than spectacular compensation. This reality challenges conventional thinking about the relationship between income level and wealth accumulation, demonstrating that consistent saving habits often matter more than peak earning potential. Engineers frequently appear among millionaire demographics due to several advantageous factors. Their analytical mindset naturally applies to financial planning, helping them make rational investment decisions based on data rather than emotions. Engineering careers typically provide steady income growth over decades, with compensation that increases predictably through experience and specialization. Additionally, many engineers work for companies with strong retirement benefits, including generous 401k matching that amplifies their wealth-building capacity. Accountants possess unique advantages for wealth accumulation beyond their solid earning potential. Professional exposure to various clients' financial situations provides ongoing education about what works and what doesn't in personal finance. They observe firsthand how different spending and saving patterns affect long-term wealth, developing insights that inform their own financial decisions. This inside perspective on money management, combined with their analytical skills, often leads to more effective wealth-building strategies. Teachers represent perhaps the most surprising group among millionaires, given their traditionally modest salaries. However, several factors contribute to their wealth-building success. Many teachers have access to strong pension systems or retirement benefits that provide substantial long-term value. Summer breaks and consistent schedules often enable side income opportunities like tutoring, consulting, or seasonal work that supplement their base income. Additionally, teachers who remain in the profession for decades benefit from steady, predictable income increases that support consistent saving habits. The common thread among these professions involves stability and predictability rather than exceptional earning potential. These careers typically provide steady employment, regular income growth, and often include benefits like health insurance and retirement contributions that reduce overall financial pressure. This stability enables consistent saving and investing over decades, which proves more powerful for wealth building than irregular high-income periods followed by financial uncertainty. However, these professions also share behavioral characteristics that support wealth accumulation. People drawn to teaching, engineering, and accounting often possess personality traits like attention to detail, long-term thinking, and comfort with systematic approaches that translate well to financial planning. They tend to make conservative, well-researched decisions rather than pursuing high-risk, high-reward strategies that might backfire. The mathematical reality supports this pattern. Someone earning $60,000 annually, who saves 15% consistently for 35 years, could potentially accumulate over $1 million through compound growth, assuming average market returns. Meanwhile, someone earning $150,000 who saves only 3% annually would accumulate significantly less wealth despite the higher income. This data demonstrates that wealth building depends more on the gap between income and expenses than on absolute income levels. People in modest-paying but stable careers often achieve millionaire status because they live below their means consistently over decades, while higher earners frequently fail to build wealth due to lifestyle inflation that consumes their additional income. Understanding this career reality helps shift focus from maximizing income to optimizing savings rates and investment consistency, regardless of your specific profession. Number 4. The compound interest timeline. Federal Reserve data reveal a striking pattern in American wealth accumulation. Net worth grows gradually during the first 2 decades of working careers, then accelerates dramatically after age 50. This mathematical phenomenon explains why many people feel discouraged about their financial progress during their 30s and 40s, not realizing they're approaching the phase where compound interest finally demonstrates its exponential power. The early years of wealth building often feel like pushing a boulder uphill with minimal visible progress. Someone contributing $500 monthly to retirement accounts throughout their 30s might see their balance grow primarily from their own contributions rather than investment returns. After 10 years of disciplined saving, they might have $75,000 accumulated, with perhaps $15,000 representing actual investment growth. This modest return on a decade of sacrifice leads many people to question whether investing actually works. However, compound interest operates on increasingly larger base amounts over time, creating acceleration that becomes visible in later decades. That same person's account might grow from $200,000 to $300,000 in just 5 years during their 50s. Not because they increased contributions dramatically, but because 7% returns on $200,000 generate $14,000 annually compared to $700 on a $10,000 balance. The timeline reflects mathematical reality rather than investment strategy changes. Money invested at age 25 has 40 years to compound before retirement, while money invested at age 55 has only 10 years. Early contributions benefit from multiple decades of growth, while later contributions barely have time to appreciate beyond their initial values. This explains why consistent early investing often proves more valuable than larger late-career contributions. Additionally, financial circumstances typically improve after age 50 in ways that accelerate wealth building beyond just compound interest effects. Major debts, like mortgages and student loans, often reach payoff during this period, freeing up substantial monthly cash flow for investment rather than debt service. Someone paying $2,000 monthly toward a mortgage suddenly has that entire amount available for wealth building once the loan is satisfied. The composition of net worth also shifts meaningfully during this period. Younger people's wealth often concentrates in depreciating assets like vehicles, furniture, and electronics, or liquid assets like home equity. By age 50, a larger portion typically resides in retirement accounts, investment portfolios, and other appreciating assets that compound annually rather than losing value. Career peak earning years usually occur during the 50s, providing both higher income and greater savings capacity, just as compound interest begins demonstrating dramatic growth. This convergence of factors, peak earnings, reduced debt obligations, and exponential investment growth, creates wealth acceleration that can feel almost magical after decades of gradual progress. However, many people abandon their wealth-building efforts just before this acceleration phase begins. Frustrated by slow early progress or discouraged by market downturns, they reduce contributions or cash out accounts precisely when patience would have been rewarded with exponential growth. Understanding this timeline helps maintain perspective during the necessarily slow early phases of wealth building, recognizing that consistent behavior eventually produces dramatic results even when individual years show minimal progress. Number 5. The savings rate decline. American household savings rates have declined dramatically over the past 4 decades, dropping from approximately 10% of income in the 1980s to roughly 5% or lower today. This reduction represents more than just changing consumer preferences. It reflects structural economic shifts that make wealth building more challenging for current generations compared to those who built wealth during previous decades. The mathematics of this decline proves significant for long-term wealth accumulation. Someone earning $100,000 annually who saves 10% has $10,000 available for emergency funds, retirement contributions, and investment accounts. At today's 5% average, that same earner has only $5,000 to cover all wealth-building priorities, including retirement savings, emergency funds, and medium-term goals like home down payments or vehicle replacement. This reduction doesn't stem from decreased financial literacy or personal irresponsibility. Multiple economic factors have squeezed household budgets in ways that make saving more difficult despite rising nominal incomes. Housing costs have increased faster than wages in many markets, consuming larger portions of household income. Healthcare expenses, including insurance premiums and out-of-pocket costs, have grown substantially. Student loan obligations affect more households than in previous generations, redirecting money that might otherwise support savings. Additionally, the shift from employer-provided pensions to 401k systems has transferred wealth-building responsibility to individuals while reducing employer contributions to retirement security. Workers must now fund their own retirement entirely, rather than relying on company pensions that provided guaranteed income without requiring employee contributions or investment decisions. The decline in savings rates helps explain why the average millionaire age has increased even after adjusting for inflation. When households save half as much as previous generations, wealth accumulation naturally takes longer despite similar career earnings patterns. Someone saving 5% annually needs twice as long to accumulate the same wealth as someone saving 10%, assuming identical investment returns. However, individual households can still achieve historical wealth-building success by maintaining higher savings rates than current averages. The people who reach millionaire status today often save 10–15% of their income, matching or exceeding historical patterns rather than following current cultural norms. This suggests that wealth building remains achievable for those willing to prioritize long-term financial security over current consumption. The challenge involves swimming against cultural currents that normalize low savings rates, while marketing messages encourage spending on lifestyle upgrades, experiences, and consumer goods. Social media amplifies pressure to display wealth through consumption rather than building actual financial security through savings and investment. Geographic factors also affect savings capacity significantly. The same income provides different savings opportunities in various cost of living environments, making location decisions increasingly important for wealth-building success. Understanding this decline provides context for personal financial planning rather than excuses for poor savings habits. While systemic factors make saving more challenging, individual families can still achieve substantial wealth accumulation by consciously choosing savings rates that exceed current cultural averages. The key involves recognizing that building wealth now requires more intentional effort and sacrifice than previous generations experienced. But the mathematical principles of compound interest remain unchanged for those willing to apply them consistently over time. These 5 realities reveal that millionaire status remains rare in America, achieved by only 9% of adults at an average age of 61 through decades of consistent saving rather than exceptional careers or quick schemes. The most common millionaire professions, teachers, engineers, and accountants, demonstrate that stability and savings discipline matter more than peak income levels. Understanding that compound interest accelerates after age 50 helps explain why early wealth building feels frustratingly slow, while declining savings rates from 10 to 5% over recent decades have made wealth accumulation more challenging than previous generations experienced. However, individuals who maintain historical 10 to 15% savings rates can still achieve substantial wealth despite these systemic changes. This data shouldn't discourage your financial efforts, but rather provide realistic timelines and expectations. Building wealth typically requires 30 to 40 years of consistent behavior, making patience and persistence more valuable than perfect investment strategies or exceptional income. What's your current age and savings rate compared to these benchmarks? Comment below whether you're ahead or behind the curve and share your biggest insight from this millionaire reality check. If this data helped set realistic expectations for your wealth-building journey, subscribe for more evidence-based financial content that cuts through unrealistic social media portrayals.